Hello. Today is April 4th, 2023, and we'll talk about two architects, very different from each other. We'll start with Mary Colter, who was born on April 4th, and this is the reason why we talk about her today. So Mary Elizabeth Jane Colter, born, as I said, April 4th, 1869, and died in January 8th, 1958, was an American architect and designer. She was one of the very few female American architects in her day. She was the designer of many landmark buildings and spaces for the Fred Harvey Company and the Santa Fe Railroad, notably in Grand Canyon National Park. Her work had enormous influence as she helped to create a style blending Spanish colonial revival and mission revival architecture with Native American motifs and rustic elements that became popular throughout the Southwest of the United States. Colter was a perfectionist who spent a lifetime advocating and defending her aesthetic vision in a largely male-dominated field. Very interesting architect. Colter created a series of remarkable works in the Grand Canyon National Park, mostly on the South Rim. The 1905 Hopi House, the 1914 Hermit's Rest and Observatory Lookout Studio, and the 1932 Desert View Watchtower, a 70-foot tall, 21 meters tall rock tower with a hidden steel structure, as well as the 1935 Bright Angel Lodge complex and the 1922 Phantom Ranch buildings at the bottom of the canyon. What was not said in these two short texts about her is that she had an immense love for the Native American Indian culture. And this is shown in her works. And I think we can learn a lot from those Native American Indians, including in architecture. Here she was looking at some, prints of a project. Here she was as a young lady. And some people have controversial views of her. I came across some articles which debate the authenticity of some of her works. I don't know. I don't know the intricacies, but the works I am going to show, I think, deserve our attention and our admiration. Here she is again, Mary Colter, as an older lady, and better resolution of that first picture that I showed with her. Mary Colter, the architect. Now I begin with this Bright Angel Lodge. I couldn't find incredible pictures with it, but you still have an idea about it. I actually like this building, in its modesty. I think it's appealing, and there's nothing wrong with it, so to speak. So anyway, this is one of her earliest works, if not the earliest. She worked with organic matter, with stones, with bricks, with wood. But I still think she was an innovator, particularly in the way she sympathized and expressed her sympathy towards the Native American Indian culture. And we are going to see explicit proofs of this sympathy. Now, the Desert View Watchtower is an impressive structure. You see it there on the right, behind the happy couple that I hope, I'm a little bit surprised that they sit, very dangerously at the edge of that rock, especially her. It's actually almost hard to believe. I tremble just looking at the picture. Maybe it's a composite picture of some manipulative efforts. But look at the building. It's stone. I understood it has a hidden steel structure that is not perceived. If I remember correctly, also, but maybe I'm saying something without verification. But I think I read that also some of the birds in flight by Brancusi, which are so elongated and so thin, they also have inside some steel element that keeps them so elongated and aspiring for the vertical infinite. I don't know, but when you look at this building, you wouldn't even imagine it has a steel structure. But if we base our appraisals just on appearance, I think we cannot deny the appeal, the aesthetical appeal, the tectonic appeal of this tower. And you are going to see pictures from the inside, which are equally impressive. In fact, the picture on the right is giving us already the chance to do so. So Mary Colter, she was in a strange way, and maybe I should have begun with the works of the other architect I'm going to talk about, because his website opens with the words "down to the earth." But actually, the one who went down to the earth, if I am to speak so, to use his words, is Mary Colter, not him. Anyway, you'll understand what I'm trying to say when we contemplate when we look at his works also. I love stone, I love wood, I love brick, I love the earth. And, could you say that these buildings are imperfect? No, or if they are beautifully so. Why should they be perfect? I mean, I enjoy very much looking at the different sizes of the stones that come together, and it's organic. It's a natural growth of the building as well. And the inside is mysterious. Is this old picture doesn't make things too easy for us, but you are going to see others. And now it's a museum. It's some kind of, I don't know exactly what is happening there, but you see plenty of tourists, contemplating the artworks, the decorations. I don't know if they were made by Native American Indians or not. Probably not, but inspired by the Native American Indian art. And if we are to return or to move towards some kind of primitive futures, there might be again a lot of interest in the art of those indigenous populations all over the world, because they knew something that perhaps we forgot. And one of my preferred books is a book on primitive architecture. It's called Primitive Architecture, from the set about the history of the world architecture. And it's a magnificent set, but the best volume is the one on so-called primitive architecture. I think highly educated contemporary architects should do very well for themselves and the world if they look again at that so-called primitive architecture. It's not primitive at all, and it's actually very often very beautiful. This is a great building, a great structure by Mary Colter. And if we are to have again some kind of affection for the earth, maybe we could consider again this kind of architecture. And maybe we could consider again not having any longer, rectangular white walls, pristine white walls and white walls and white walls. Why there are only white walls? Why? I prefer these walls, to be honest with you. They are more romantic. They tell more the truth of life than the white walls. I am tired of white walls. I agree. Plus, why shouldn't we have, graphic inscriptions on the walls? In such a building, you don't need, to hang paintings on the walls, framed or otherwise. They are already artistically endowed. Look, I don't think it bothers anyone that the walls are not straight and they are not perfect and so on, and they are not smooth and they are not glittering. I think they are very nice like they are. Mary Colter, bravo to her. The snake. Yes, the snake. Well, the zigzagging and the snake, the sinuous lines, they came back to architecture thanks to parametry, thanks to the total fluidities and the fluid totalities of Zaha Hadid and others like her. But here we have, the first intuitions of those people who were firmly rooted in the earth, those Native American Indians who had a wisdom we don't have any longer. And maybe it's also the wisdom of stones. Maybe stones are not stupid, and they are not maybe even soulless. I cannot verify this through scientific analysis, but something tells me that the stone might not be as inert as we think it might be. And maybe Lina Bobardi intuited something similar when she confronted diamonds with stones. Stones against diamonds, she wrote. Stones against diamonds. Now, the Hermit's Rest of Mary Colter, I don't know what initially the function was for this building, some kind of adobe in the mountains. Again, stone and wood. This is, I'm afraid this picture belongs to a next building I'm going to show, but they are very similar. But anyway, it's a form of construction that something would be, primitive. It would be considered primitive, but I wouldn't call it so. And I think in this incredible landscape, it's the appropriate way to build. And it's not alien to the landscape. It's connected with the landscape. It's the work of man. It's the work of a lady architect, of a woman architect, but it's a work which doesn't insult nature. It's not arrogant, although it is assertive, but not in an arrogant way. Now, of course, it would have been probably difficult to bring all those stones one above the other, heavy as they are. To work with such big stones is, a challenge for weaker muscles like mine. Hermit's Rest. And a picture inside with two tourists. Now here we see more tourists taking nice pictures of themselves, being happy, the kids and the adults as well. And look at the ceiling and look at the structure, that supports the ceiling and the roof. Is there's nothing wrong with it. It's well, something is wrong with it, that all that wood, was obtained from cutting down trees. But what can we do? We cannot build without consuming some resources, unfortunately. Not too much stone is being used these days, but maybe one day we'll return to the stone if we promise we'll build less. The Hopi House, this is a very interesting collective housing inspired by and maybe dedicated to the Native American Indian life. I love this. I love this building. You know, it's anonymous in a way. You would say this is an architecture without architects. It's a vernacular architecture. But I find it very refreshing after so many examples of signature buildings. Here is a building which says, I am as I am, and I came into being as I came into being. And there is no, what exactly Mary Colter did here, I don't know. Nor do I know the function of the building. It's possible it's some kind of collective housing with very small windows or openings. And I love those small windows. It's a very sustainable architecture, is it not? No loss of energy. And I love those ladders, you know, leading to the terrace. I truly love this building. I wish we could build again like this. And look at these openings in the walls. They are not, you know, they have different sizes. They are done with imperfections. But again, as Lina Bobardi said, we should be tolerant towards imperfection. It's nothing wrong with imperfection, you know. Not in this case, not in this building. You could say that we are too sophisticated and too advanced to build like this these days. I'm not so sure. After all, Mary Colter built a few centuries after the Renaissance, and we have very proud Renaissance buildings in Europe, but she was not afraid to return to some kind of a primeval form of building. Or maybe it's not primeval, but you know, a more remote form of building. Do you see anything wrong with it aesthetically? I don't. I think it's just fine. It deserves the Pritzker Prize. This very building. Let's give a post-mortem Pritzker Prize to Mary Colter. I think she deserves it. But she is much better than David Chipperfield, that's for sure. Look at this matter, you know, look at these bricks, look at the stones in the previous work. They are alive. They are alive, and they are not perfect. And maybe there is a connection between being not perfect and being alive. I mean, the tree and the building, nature and man, together. They are distinct, but they are not adversaries. And why not have again some cryptical graphic signs, you know, paying homage to the elements, to the animals, the birds, the snake, and the sun in the center. Very, very nice. Do we do something like this these days? Of course not. Yes, we can learn from the Native American Indians and from Mary Colter as well. Now here, yes, there is tourism, there is merchandising, there is selling. I don't know exactly what is happening inside, but beyond the, you know, the techniques of survival or the techniques of prospering materially, what matters is the quality of the work. Imperfectly beautiful, beautifully imperfect. Now, the Lookout Studio, somebody told me, I did some years ago, many years ago, I just drew some plans for possible houses. Nobody asked me to do them. I just did them because I felt like doing them, and I did them. And somebody said they remind me of this very building by Mary Colter, and I'm going to show you those few drawings after this one. Now, again, we see the landscape and we see the house. We see nature and we see the human being. And I think they blend together, they intermingle, they interact. They are distinct, but discreetly so, I would say. Frank Lloyd Wright in the Falling Water building is much more drastically, in fact, he is opposed to the forest. And he is opposed to the falling water. And he does provoke the falling water by building above it and not at a distance from it to look at it, as the clients, the Kaufman family expected. But in this case, we see a more modest stance, and the building built by Mary Colter is you know, some might say it's not as innovative as it could have been. Why? Because he didn't try to, you know, make some architectural acrobatics. I like the building very much. Modest as it is. In fact, in good measure, I like it because it is modest. Now, the placement of the building is not so modest. I mean, you know, it's a great privilege to build with such a view. You can imagine. I don't know if it was her studio. It's possible it was. But can you imagine working and living even temporarily in such a place with such a view? Mary Colter, the Lookout Studio. And you can tell that when this building will fall to the ground, as everything falls to the ground one day, including the great Egyptian pyramids, it will not provoke some negativity in the ecology of the world. No, it will return to where it came from. But this will not happen without very proud contemporary or modern buildings. The Lookout Studio. What about a possible project called Look-In Studio for an introverted architect? So I'll show you now two quickly, and I'm not sure I do the right thing now, but because somebody did tell me that these two houses reminded him of Mary Colter's, some of the work by Mary Colter, I'm showing them to you. Two houses that I designed that a friend of mine said that they remind him in a way of some works by Mary Colter. Well, they were not built, but you see the plans and the top views and two views. This is one of them. And you could say, what does this have to do with Mary Colter? Well, if you approximate correctly, probably, that the thick walls are made of stone, you could probably say that this could be a building that doesn't look too different from, you know, what you see here in its, you know, in its, you know, fragmentations done mainly because of stone. Now, these sketches that I did, nobody asked me to do them for two possible houses, could have something of that. You see here that I try to insinuate the material that the walls were built from, and stones. And this is another one, cave-like, built also with thick walls, you could say medieval walls, and built of stone, as you can see in the section above. And here, top view, also with the view of an elevation, the narrow elevation, also with the walls built of stone. Maybe I was a little bit I don't know how to put it. Yes, I know how to put it. When I prepared this material about Tom Wiscombe and Mary Colter, it crossed my mind that somehow, my own work is somewhere in between Mary Colter and Tom Wiscombe. And you'll understand better what I mean when I'll show something else when I present the works of Tom Wiscombe. But now I still have to talk a little bit more about Mary Colter. The painted desertine. This is, you could say a commercial structure for a small institution is an inn. I don't like it so much as the previous works, but it has virtues as well. Mary Colter. The Phantom Ranch. I think there is more than one. I mean, more than one building. There are several buildings, but I don't know if she built all of them or she built just one, and then some other people later on built others, similar to this one. A very modest building, but there's nothing wrong with very modest buildings. You see there on the right, there are two more and maybe 4 or 5 or so. But anyway, she built for sure one of them. Okay, that was about Mary Colter. Let's wish her happy birthday.